Fast forward, make it 6th century BC. There's a guy named Cyrus the Great, Kurosh, Persian. In fact, he's the guy who creates the Persian Empire. When he does it, he issues the world's first ever Bill of Rights. When I say Bill of Rights, you think Western civilization. There it is, the Persians. They beat everybody to it. By the way, just for the record, that Bill of Rights, that's almost 2,600 years old. It's over 2,500 years old. Almost 26 centuries. Banned slavery, human sacrifice, and it guaranteed freedom of religion. In fact, it encouraged freedom of religion. The Persians told everybody in the empire, if your temples are in disrepair, we will fix it for you using government funding. So after the Neo-Babylonian Empire had conquered the Jews in Palestine and dragged some of those Jews to Babylon, not to be slaves, but to live in Babylon. They were forcibly relocated to Babylon. When Kurosh conquered Babylon, he told the Jews, no, you can live anywhere you want. We're not doing that anymore. There's no slavery in my empire. There's no forced living anywhere in my empire. And so a bunch of them wanted to go back to Palestine. The Temple of Solomon had been destroyed by the Neo-Babylonians because they hated the Jews and they just wanted to hurt them. So they tore down the Temple of Solomon. And when they read the Bill of Rights, they go, hey, can we get a new Temple of Solomon? Kurosh is like, yes, of course. Everybody gets their temples rebuilt. And he said, okay, yeah, show me the plans. And let's just say they added stuff from the original temple. For example, they built a giant human-made mesa and then put the second Temple of Solomon on top. And so Kurosh is looking at it and he goes, wait, what? That's like a mountain, a flat mountain. The Babylonians tore that down? I don't even know how anybody built it, let alone tore it down. And the Jews are like, yeah, they really hated us. And so Kurosh goes, well, we're going to do it. We promised you we'd do it. We're going to build it. But I only know one people on earth that can build mountains. It'll be Persian gold, but it's going to be Egyptian engineers. And they went and grabbed Egyptian engineers, and they built the Temple Mount with Persian gold. And that's why Kurosh is in the Bible. Thales, shortly afterwards, a few decades later, invents philosophy, Miletos. It spreads, it goes to Athens. The Athenians fall in love with it. A woman named Aspasia teaches Socrates. Oh, that got left out of your stories, didn't it? Socrates' teacher was a woman named Aspasia. The reason why that got left out of your history is because once we became Christian, we didn't like the idea that women were teachers and leaders. And so there was a systematic attempt to delete all the women leaders and all the women philosophers from the history textbooks. And so if you look up Aspasia, you will find people saying, yeah, she may not have been real. Why would Socrates tell us that a mythical person taught him philosophy? What's the point in even making up the story? What's the likelihood that she wasn't real? It's preposterous, but it fits our patriarchal orientation. The Persians and the Greeks are in this epic back and forth. And eventually the Persians get bored with the Greeks and stop fighting them. And then Alexander the Great conquers them out of the blue. And this is this unbelievable event. And then that Greek civilization starts to come apart and gets replaced by this Roman civilization. And the Romans are amazing conquerors. They take the Greek phalanx, they upgrade it, they turn it into the Roman legion. The Persians eventually recover from the Greek conquest. And now the new clash is between the Persians and the Romans, and it'll last 53 BC, when the Battle of Karhay, until the rise of Islam, when it ends. So the Muslims start conquering Persia in 633. So 53 BC to 633, almost 7 centuries. The Persians and the Romans fight it out. Brutal, nasty, knockdown, drag-out fights. But in the middle of all of this, there's one thing that's really powerful and important for our purposes, and it's the Great Library. One of the Greeks who went with Alexander and conquered the Persians, his name was Ptolemy the First, Sotir, Ptolemy the Savior. That's the title he took. He goes and carves Egypt out of this Greek empire when Alexander the Great dies, because he thought Egypt was the best piece of real estate in Alexander's empire. And then he founds the Great Library. The idea behind the Great Library is it'll be the world's repository for information. And what they're going to do is they're going to bring books from every society and every culture there and keep a copy. And they're going to invent things. The first thing on earth called a museum was one of the buildings at the Great Library. It was a museum for all the latest advanced tech. There was no such thing as copyright. The idea was that you could go to Alexandria, visit the library, see the museum, see the advanced tech, and then build on it. But then once you built on it, you were supposed to bring your advances there so that the next generation of advances could be made based on yours. That was the idea behind the museum, not so you could stick art and ancient relics in it. It was supposed to be so that the world could advance technologically. At its height, the Great Library may have reached as many as 1 million books. I actually think 1 million is probably the right number. I've seen 2 million, feel like that's too many. I've seen 200,000, I feel like that's too few. To give you an idea of what 1 million books is, the Library of Congress, the United States Library of Congress, reached the 1 million book mark in 1905. So in terms of quantity of information, the Great Library was on par with where we were in 1905. Quality, no, but quantity, yes. Because right by 1905, we had flight, the light bulb, and steam trains. But remember Heron? He was at the Great Library, so they had steam. They just hadn't made trains yet. If they had had a little bit more time, they might have. But they run out of time. They run out of time because Rome converts to Christianity. Now, this isn't me bashing Christianity. I'm not in the mood to bash anybody. I just want to tell you the story, because it's important that we acknowledge what happened. As Rome switched to being Christian and dumped its pagan roots, it also started to slowly move away from this idea that it needed to be advanced technologically. And in 391 AD, it took that to the maximum level when Emperor Theodosius issued a decree declaring that the Roman Empire was not, it wasn't just that Christianity was the official religion. It wasn't just that Christianity was the state's religion. It was also the only religion. Non-Christians were no longer welcome in the empire. Jews and pagans needed to convert or leave. And when that happened, the Archbishop of Alexandria, Archbishop Theophilus, issued his own decree asking the Christian population of Alexandria to go ahead and get rid of the pagans and the Jews. They went to the Jewish quarter. Alexandria was the largest Jewish city on the planet. Alexandria is where the Septuagint was made. So the second Greek pharaoh, Ptolemy II, Ptolemy Philadelphus, had such a large Jewish population in Alexandria that couldn't speak Hebrew, so they didn't know how to read their holy texts, that he decided to commission a Greek translation of the Old Testament into Greek so that the Greek-speaking Jews living in Alexandria would be able to access their holy texts. So he got 70-something rabbis, we don't know the exact number, and he made the Septuagint, which means 70. And the Septuagint